Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, tmosso@thewatchbox.com. It's in the description below. Your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any Watchbox platform. Please reach out to me directly. Email tmosso@thewatchbox.com for pricing details. Today, we are discussing the Omega Speedmaster Professional Moonwatch Mitsukoshi limited edition of 300. So this was a 300-piece limited series made in 2003 for the Japanese department store Mitsukoshi, which is the oldest department store in Japan. The watch is enormously influential, highly sought, and in this instance, fully authenticated. More on that in a moment. 42 millimeters in diameter in stainless steel. The watch is 14.2 millimeters thick. It does have a Hesselite crystal. We've got a 48.5 millimeter lug-to-lug dimension, and if we measure the bracelet end link to end link, the total distance across the wrist is 53.3 millimeters with a 20 millimeter spacing between the lugs. The timepiece sits nicely on my 16 centimeter circumference wrist, though the Moonwatch on a bracelet is a large piece. I'd recommend it for a wrist no smaller than 15 centimeters circumference. If it's on the bracelet, put it on a strap and you could get away with a 14 centimeter circumference wrist. You can see that lovely off-axis distortion from the plexiglass. And then in profile, it's not that the watch is excessively thick, but it does have a dramatically cantilevered bezel, so it will cause the tightest of dress cuffs to get hung up, but a jacket should be just fine. One more down the barrel shot so you can see the clearance on each side. Taking a quick look at the bracelet, period correct, original to the watch. Solid end link, solid center links, polished outer faces, satin primaries, polished intermediates. There's a little bit of a taper down from the integrated end link to the clasp body, and removable links are fixed in place by pins and sleeves. So if you want to size this at home, use a block and a punch. Single fold deployment, thick gauge steel, twin trigger release. We also have a thick gauge steel clasp. This is what you would have gotten on a Seamaster Diver 300 meter at the time, minus the dive extension. Now we do have a couple of divots drilled here, literally a pair, and you can use a strap tool to change the anchoring point of the bracelet to fine-tune the fit. You can see that the engraving is still deep and sharp on the clasp. We're going to roll around to the case. Traditional Moonwatch, lyre-style lugs, 42 millimeters. This is the case as we've known it since the original of the Speedmaster Professionals in the early 1960s. Back in 1964, we saw this case on a Speedmaster for the first time, and it remains largely unchanged to this day. So you have the lyre-style lugs, as they call it, with a polished outer bevel, but then on a satin-finished inner bevel, there's a double bevel. We have an asymmetrical profile on the crown side with a little bit of a recess to act as a shear guard for the chronograph pushers and the crown. Omega logo on the crown. We have that polished underside to the tachymeter bezel, anodized aluminum insert, 500 unit base. It can be used with the chronograph to gauge the speed of an object over a kilometer most easily. You can convert to other units, and you can use it for miles, but you got to do a lot of mental math. We have a traditional thermoplastic, and then you can see the little Omega logo right over the center. The watch does have a unique dial that was unique to the Mitsukoshis and is often emulated by what's most diplomatically described as modding of conventional Speedmasters. This is the real deal. You can see it is silver base with tone-on-tone black registers. We've got an applique Omega logo, applique indices, and then this is correct to the model. We have non-white varnished chronograph seconds hand. So normally this is white varnished on a standard Speedmaster. Here none of the hands are white varnished. That includes chronograph seconds. That is proper to the model. Now you're also going to note that the watch has the correct serial number range to be a Mitsukoshi, but if you're not satisfied, we have all of the original boxes and documentation for this watch, documenting its sale at Mitsukoshi in Japan in 2003. The card has the right country code. The original wooden box that is distinctive of this model is present and correct, so you can buy this with confidence. The watch is mechanically, though, exactly like a standard Moonwatch, which is to say, we start with a solid case back that reminds you of the watch's heritage. Of course, the pre-moon Speedmaster Professionals were worn on the moon, though the Moonwatch, as it appears here, appeared on many, many, many NASA missions subsequently. Mechanically speaking, it's the caliber 1861, which is a Lemania 1873 chronograph Bausch that's changed in certain ways, both technical and aesthetic, to make it appropriate for this application. The watch is 50 meters water resistant. The movement's a manual wind with a 48-hour power reserve, a 6 beat per second rate. It pivots on 18 joules, and it has a cam-operated chronograph with a lateral clutch, but it's a wonderfully tuned cam. That's the might of Omega and Lamagna in the modern era. It feels as crisp as a column wheel, and if I didn't know better, I wouldn't know better. The lateral clutch system is particularly shock resistant, which makes it an ideal application for a watch that may have to deal with up to 5,000 instantaneous Gs in NASA service. Reach out to Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details. Before we go, let's do a quick loom shot, because after all, that's half the fun.